Okay guys, now that we've finished the installation on the driver front fender, it has been trimmed and tucked. This one's ready to go. We can now move on to the front bumper. We'll head to the computer, open up Film Cut, which is available at plotterdepot.com to be able to plot out the driver's side pattern for the front of this bumper. Okay guys, now that we've made it to the computer and we've opened up our Film Cut program, in the select vehicle type, we are going to choose the PPF templates. You'll select PPF, year, make, and model of the vehicle. In this case, it's a 2022 Lexus UX 200. We are going to be doing the left bumper. Select the left bumper. Brings up the template. Now that we have selected the pattern, we'll make our way to the workhorse and start cutting out the pattern. Okay, now that we've selected our pattern in the Film Cut program, we are now at the workhorse. The only thing left to do is press cut on the program and send it to the plotter. We'll do that now. Just be sure not to cut through your pattern. It is sometimes difficult to see, but like anything else with practice, you'll be able to find your pattern. Now that we've removed the excess film, we will now start the weeding process so that we can identify our pattern. Be sure to pull away from the pattern at all times, just in case. You don't want to damage the pattern that you will be using. And like I said, in this step, we're just finding our pattern in the piece of film that was cut out. Now that we've weeded out our pattern, all we have left is the pattern that we'll be working with. I'll still do some trimming just to handle less film, and then we'll start the installation process. Now that we have our plotter on the peel board, our portable peel board, I did move it closer to the vehicle so you don't have to be walking as far to the vehicle with exposed film. That gives you a good chance for any contaminants or anything to get in the film before the installation process, and that's something that you definitely don't want. Our vehicle is already prepped with our tint gel, so now the next step is just to get our pattern and take it to the car. There's several ways to do this. Some people like to pull the pattern off of the film. I'm going to leave the pattern on the peel board in this instance, being that it does have several cuts in it. I don't want it to touch itself prematurely. Now that we have our pattern exposed, now it's time to take it to the vehicle and start the installation process. Now we'll start to apply our pattern and just get it on the vehicle. Being that it has so many cutouts, this is, I would say, on the more difficult side for this install. But this is just to give you a general idea of the installation process. Just line it up as good as you can for now. The main thing is just to get it in position. Then you'll be able to get it to where it's finally going to sit and start tacking it down. So we have it in the general area of where it needs to be. I'm going to start back here on the fender and work my way to the front. We did use PPF gel for the installation. I like to use a gel on the more difficult patterns because they sit longer and it just gives you a little bit more time before it sets up. Here where I want it to stay, and use this as a guideline, we're going to put some tack solution. Remember to spray the outside of your pattern so that your squeegees glide with no friction. And we'll start to tack this down right now. I'm lining up these two edges. And we'll start to tack it down and removing any moisture and all of the tint gel. Again, 50-50 overlapping strokes is best, just so that you don't have any moisture left behind. You definitely don't want to leave anything behind and try and get it out later. That's where you start to experience glue marks. You can lift the film and reposition it, but if you don't have to, better not to. So we'll start setting this up and squeegeeing out as much moisture as we can. Try not to get ahead of yourself. There is a lot of stretching involved to get the pattern to lay straight, but it does have all of the relief cuts in it already, which help out tremendously in aligning the film. Again, if there's any areas that are giving you problems and don't want to stick, that's where the tack solution comes in handy. I'm going to spray some on this area, in this small area, to help it stick. Again, just be patient with it, work everything out. On the body lines, be sure to try and get all of the moisture out. That's where a lot of the moisture likes to get trapped. Now you can start to see where you need to pull and stretch to get the pattern to lay correctly. Again, don't worry about little fingers. You are going to have some. All of that will have to be worked out at the end. The main thing is just getting the main points to line up. Every pattern is cut to the vehicle, but there will be some trimming involved in the final tucking and installation. But like I said, don't try and over finish it. A lot of the stuff has to be touched up at the end. Everything's looking good so far. Now we can start aligning the other pieces, getting them tacked where they have to be. Like I said, don't worry about any little fingers that you have. As long as there's nothing major, you will have to touch up, trim, tuck at the end to get the pattern complete. Again, I can't stress enough on the body lines. It's important to try and get all the moisture out. That's where it likes to trap a lot of the moisture. Everything's looking good. This area here where the recess is going to stay floating until the end. So try not to get ahead of yourself and try to finish it prematurely. On this pattern, they do have the pattern available to be able to cut out the sensors. I chose not to. It's just one less thing to have to align, and it can always be trimmed out at the end. Again, in this recessed area, I like to let it float and dry out a little bit, and we'll fix that with our tack solution here in a little bit. I'm gonna move on. Again, I'm using not a lot of pressure, but enough to get all of the tint gel out. In this case, the tint gel I like to use, like I said, on these harder patterns, just because it gives you plenty of time to maneuver it and get everything into place before wanting to dry. A lot of the times the regular slip solution will let it dry too quick, and that could become a problem. Okay, now we're gonna mess with this recessed area. Grab our tack solution, spray some tack solution in there, and try and stretch it out, and try and get this bottom piece to lay first. Finishing stage, we're just trying to lay our pattern on there and just get everything lined up. Again, on the body lines, I like to pull with the body line. Make sure you get all of the moisture out. Again, like I said, you'll have some fingers. On this area, I am gonna leave most of this floating here. And the reason for that is it is a gradual curve. It needs to grab, but I will spray our tack solution in there once it dries, and it'll be a lot easier to tuck, just like we did on the fenders. The last piece to line up is right here around the grill. We do have an exposed area here, which is a recessed cut, a stress relief cut. We'll leave that hanging as well, let that dry out, and then we'll be able to finish it after we get all of it done. Now in this recessed area, we're gonna spray some of our tack solution. Be generous with it, and you wanna work out as much as the air as possible and squeegee behind it to try and lay into that recessed area. You want to work your way into it, not away from it. Like I said, you can pull the film back if need be. There is still some moisture around the sensor, but like I said, we will be trimming that out in a little bit. I'm gonna grab some more tack solution. Also, if you can, always try and get some of the moisture off of the surface if possible. Just helps you identify any moisture left behind or any contaminants that might have been left behind. Now with the tack solution and letting it sit, as you can see, it is wanting to lay down. Like I said, don't get ahead of yourself, just give yourself some time. A lot of it is squeegee technique as well. You want to work into this low spot here. You'll learn that your fingers also become tools with the heat as well. It helps it to stick. So whatever works for you, there's no wrong way to do it. The tack solution really does help. And like I said, all of these little fingers, don't worry about it. They do create a little bit of suction. They do want to draw in contaminants, but this was fully cleaned before we did it. So basically we have the pattern installed. A lot of it now is just the finishing touches, which we will let sit, and we will touch these up here in a little bit. Okay guys, like I said, this pattern is now about 80% installed. A lot of it does have to dry. It does need a little bit of touch up, some tucking and some trimming. The fenders are done. The driver's side fender that we did is fully complete and tucked. This side is complete. We are going to do a full front clip on this vehicle. After this is done and trimmed, we will be moving on to the hood. But like I said, the main things is don't get ahead of yourself. I know this looks a little scary at times with the fingers, but a lot of it just has to dry. You will need to put some tack solution in places to secure it, and some heat will be applied also in the final tuck and trim. Other than that, this looks great. This film has a really good look to it, very low orange peel, and it is very hydrophobic. Once installed, it's almost invisible to the eye, and we'll move on to the hood here shortly after this is trimmed up and finished. Now that we've got the majority of the pattern in place, like I said, we will have some areas here and recessed areas that I do like to let dry out with our tack solution to become sticky, and it's easier to tuck. That will let sit for about 30-45 minutes. But now I'm gonna just try and relieve a little bit of this stress and moisture around this sensor, and we'll do a rough cut just to get a little bit of the moisture out. Again, be careful when cutting on the paint. It is easy to go through. I'm not putting a lot of pressure. When you cut the PPF, you don't necessarily want to cut through it, you're scoring it. So you always want to just pull away from your pattern. And like I said, I'm just getting a little bit of this moisture out that I can for now. And this is going to sit as well for about 30-45 minutes and then receive a final trim. For the most part, this pattern's about 80% done. The rest of it is just being patient, letting it sit, and we'll touch up everything here in a little bit and get you another video. If you have a problem with it sticking, you can always spray a little bit of your tack solution in there. It'll just help it stick. Like again, this is just the first rough cut. I will be trimming it out a little bit better. Just don't want to let any of that moisture sit in there for too long. Now that that's trimmed out, like I said, we do have our other spots that are exposed. Those will be sprayed with our tack solution to let dry. Once they become tacky, we will be able to finish up the install. The sensor had previously been removed. I like to install the pattern all at once so that it stays in place, and then I'll peel anything like this, any sensors, any tow hooks that need to be done, and they're easily applied after. I like to put these on mainly with my tack solution because I know I don't really have to worry about it moving too much. That way it'll stay in place. Now, like I said, we'll let everything else sit and we'll come back and touch it up here in a few minutes. Okay guys, at this point the pattern is about 90% complete. We did tack up everything that we could. There are some little intricate areas here that need to sit. These are going to sit for about 30-45 minutes. We'll spray them with the tack solution so that they become a little bit tackier, easier to maneuver, and help them stay in place a lot easier. Now that this is done, we're going to move on to the hood.